say maybe my hair idol.
Do you have one of those?
He's a handsome dude, man.
Yeah. Okay.
So he invites me on this trip with a handful of people to go in the Mediterranean for a couple of days, and it's with a bunch of rock climbing friends of his, like the dudes that pioneered deep sea free soloing. We have recently announced that we're pursuing a plan to build orbital data centers as well, and I think it's kind of interesting to play it through that lens.
Is there anything that you had to unlearn to basically get good at building this type of company?
Yeah, actually. It's the willingness to be scrappy again, and like kind of marrying the willingness to be scrappy again with the areas that I don't want to be scrappy.
Talk about both those.
Yeah. I mean, because think about the last 10 to 15 years of my life. I go from like seeing Robin Hood as this like little twinkle in our eyes to a rapidly growing thing to a thing that was very big and was.
All right, looks like the stream is up and running. What's up, everybody? Hello. We're just getting some shots in here. That is Robbie working the Ronin. He's locked in. He is locked in. Hello, Jay Place. Hello, Suzanne. So much in the news. I don't like the way Trump spoke to the CNN reporter. Are you talking about Caitlin Collins? I will tell you something about Caitlin Collins. She's like the toughest in the world. So don't worry. She can hold her own against Rocky Balboa. She can hold her own against, anybody. You could throw her in that cage in front of the White House, she'd be fine. Caitlin Collins is, I hear what you're saying, and it's, it's nice to hear that people have journalists back when we're asking questions, but Caitlin Collins is, again, force of nature. Jay Place, why are they recording shots? Pre-recording shots? I think they're just practicing stuff, but I don't know. They look beautiful. Beautiful shots of our vertical Mons. What up, Lise? How's it going?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good. Why are they
We have a couple special guests in the control room tonight. Our buddy Luke is back there. He's helping us outlining today.
I know. He's been holding it down.
He's been holding it down. He's been doing a great job.
You guys went to go get chicken tenders or something? He was the only one that was like, hey, I'm still here. Everybody else is slacking, and they're just getting buffalo sauce or whatever, and I'm working hard. So huge shout out.
That wasn't exactly how it played out, but
Yeah, we've been manning, like we have not done any golf cart tours. We have been working super hard all day long.
Oh my gosh, you haven't given the golf cart tour?
No, just kidding. Yeah, we did. It was great. It was great. What did we see
the sky
today?
blue?
They shut down. They shut down the New York streets because they were doing something special over there. What up, James? We got Suzanne. We got Jay Place. We got James on TikTok, YouTube. It's all trickling in now. Ooh, and William is here. Hello, William. Buenas noches, Puerto Rico. Setting up for Cinegear. Oh, is that what's going on the back lot? I was wondering. I was like, this is a movie about Cinegear? Aw, thanks a lot, Kev. That's what's going on. Yeah, it's a pretty cool place to have a conference.
I need the Bobcat.
All right, so everything looking okay on time, Lise?
We're looking great on time right now. Good. We have a lot of stuff to get into.
I'm really excited about Cowboy Data Centers.
And I will flag you if it looks like we're getting calls. We're like on the edge of our seats if we're going to get anything in California. It's probably not going to be for a little while yet. I know you're laughing at this, but...
Like a little while, like weeks, probably. I mean, I don't know. I don't, guys. I do not know the future. But it could be weeks, right? Right.
I remember the 2020 election at the Arizona results. That was months, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Okay, so this is the reason why California has not been a big deal to the people that watch in other parts of the country. Because California is always, like, this is such an establishment, a Democrat establishment state. I mean, it's like one of the bluest of the blue states, and the way that they've set the policies for voting and all this stuff, like, there's one person that's running away with it, and it's very easy to call those races early, like for journalists, for vote, like watchers, they can call those races, and yet like the county and the state may not call the race officially, but everybody that's doing math is like, yeah, no, there's no way that they can overcome this. So California takes forever to count the votes. They have for a while now, but because it's usually such a big margin, we and everybody else call races early. This time, it's going to be tight, and that means that we all have to sit around and wait for the state to do what the state does, which is take forever counting the votes.
Now, I didn't realize everybody gets a mail-in ballot no matter what. So you can either go to a polling location or you could just mail it in.
Oh, yeah. So everybody gets a mail-in ballot at the address that the state thinks that they have on file. Like that, like it's, I mean, people move all the time, right? Like there's so many, like, do you know how expensive it is in LA? Like people live in apartments and they move apartment. It's crazy. So they send ballots out to where the state thinks you live, and maybe you get your ballot, maybe you don't, but everybody gets the ballots. It's like 23 million registered voters. And then you can either send those ballots in, or you can drop them off, or you can mail them the day of. Instead of going to like the voting ballot box and just dropping it in there, you can put it in the mail service, and then they have what, like 7 days to get that, to wait until we have all of the ballots returned, and then we will start going through and counting those last ones. And then there's this thing called curing, which is, you know, like there's going to be, in those ballots, there's going to be problems. Maybe a signature doesn't match. Maybe the name is off or something like that. So then they have to cure it. So then they have 2 or 3 days set aside for taking all the problematic ballots, double, triple check in, and then boom, we have an answer. That's weeks. So in the past, it's been weeks. We'll see how fast they can do it this time. And maybe, I don't know, if there's a sizable jump by either Spencer Pratt or Nithya Raman, you might be able to call it just based on math. Same with what we're seeing with Steyer and Hilton, but it's not happening. What a mess. What a mess. That's right. Let's see. MS.
As soon as he starts walking over.
All right, I'm gonna run to the ladies' go. I still have time to move.
Let's see, what else? What else are you guys talking about? Wow, that's, yes, there he is. That's Big Mike in his full glory. See how much taller he is? Watch, look at this. I don't even know why they like. I don't even know why they use you for the. Look at. Just, I don't know if you guys have ever seen us together. He's like way up here. And I'm 6'2". He's got to be 6'9". Oh, man. Anyway, yes, it is very much a mess. What are you guys watching today? No aliens in the news today? Well, not today, but I did talk to Neil deGrasse Tyson today. I talked to him about aliens for this documentary that we're working on about Disclosure Day. So we're taking a look at Disclosure Day and kind of the story arc of Steven Spielberg. And so we chatted with Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's got this new book out about aliens. It was interesting. It was pretty pretty interesting. Let's see. What else are you guys asking about? How hard is it to fill extra time? Depends if we have a space guest or not. If we have a space guest or an AI guest, not hard at all. We could talk about that for centuries. It is a waiting game. Is it true more files will be released from the government? Yes, that is true. In fact, we're waiting for some more detailed files. So far, we've not seen the files that we've been waiting for. There's one file in particular. I'll tell you, since we're friends here. There's one file in particular that we've been hearing about in rumors for years. It is apparently a black triangular craft, allegedly, a black triangular craft rising out of the water somewhere in the ocean. And we've never seen it, but apparently it exists. And so that's one of the, that's like the holy grail. We've been told that if people saw it, there would be no question that there is something non-human out there. But again, I will believe it when I see it. What about you guys? How many people here think that we have already been visited by some other sort of higher intelligence? Trump's White House. MS, I see your point there. I understand where you're coming from. Let's see. I do know about the Aguadilla incident. William, have you ever heard about the Aguadilla incident? Oh, wow, that is awesome. What time is it over there? 7B? Yep, that one's interesting. Do you think it was a balloon?
This is a little off. The desk is.
Okay.
What did you
You
say,
guys
Lisa?
started already? Did it?
Hey,
We've
Lisa, you're still
we've
up.
gone in years past. Oh, sorry. Smorgasburg is expensive
Hi.
though.
Let's see here. What? Interesting.
2 in Brooklyn.
Do you guys have
One's
political text
somewhere
buddies that are sending you the latest polls?
But I
Not
think it's
polls, the
Prospect
latest
Park,
odds on
Williamsburg.
Kalshi.
Are the two.
This is a weird time for elections, man.
I've never
Weird time.
2 minutes away.
2 minutes. All right.
Starting at the windows.
Starting at the windows. We're going to start at the windows today in 2 minutes. If you're just joining us, this is Stay Tuned Now Behind the Scenes. And in about 2 minutes, we're going to start our show. We're going to be talking about the mishmash of news that's coming out of the Trump White House. We've got everything from the latest in Lebanon, Israel, Iran, to Bolton, to the president. And we're also going to be talking about how long it's taken for these votes to be counted in California. And a little bit later in the hour, we are going to be talking to Cowboy Space Corporation, which I'm very excited about, and the IPO of SpaceX. That's going to be interesting as well. Let's see. Oh, Laha City? That's interesting. I'll have to check that out, William.
1 minute.
1 minute. SSJ, I don't think that that's happening, but I think I know what you're saying, and I understand where you're coming from. I really do. Let's see. Jamie, so true. So true. All right, here we go. 40 seconds until showtime, everybody. Let's get going. Whoops. Let me switch this up. All right, Lisa. Have a good show, everybody.
Have a good show.
Have a good show.
Oh, great.
Am I staying here and walking this way, or are we just
staying?
staying?
John staying here, and then
Okay. And all the way down? Okay. Cool, cool. Got it. All right. I like these windows. See how this works.
3.
Hey, tonight they are still counting ballots here in California. And it seems like the whole world of politics is getting pretty impatient, especially as officials are warning it could take days, even weeks, before all the votes are counted. Still no word on the big race for California governor. Still no word on who is taking on LA's incumbent mayor, which we're going to dive into in just a bit. But since it's going to be a while, let's get to the other side of the country first. Lots of major news to get to in Washington as Hezbollah rejects the U.S.-backed ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon. Congress is taking the first step in maybe reeling back the president's power, with 4 Republicans siding with all of the Democrats to end the war with Iran. Take a listen to what some of them had to say.
I definitely feel what people are experiencing back home. You know, I go back home to my district every single week. You know, I fill up my gas tank too.
I think it sends a good message that the People's House, which represents the people, is tired of this war.
We have to follow the law. There's a law in the books. The War Powers Act of '73 says 48-hour notification and 60-day concurrence of Congress. We're past the 60 days.
So what does that entail? We will see. Meanwhile, President Trump announced his pick to lead the Department of Justice after firing Attorney General Pam Bondi back in April. All of this as the president's former advisor, John Bolton, he has agreed to plead guilty to mishandling classified information, with an arraignment expected to come later this month. Now let's break it all down with NBC News Chief White House Correspondent Garrett Haake. Garrett, this War Powers resolution, it doesn't force the president to end the war, right? And the president is saying that this is meaningless. So does it have any teeth?
It does not have any teeth, Gotti, but I wouldn't say it's exactly meaningless. I think politically it makes a statement that is in line with what we've seen from all the polling, that this war is broadly unpopular with the American people. Now there's at least one bipartisan vote saying the same thing. I think it also gives a little bit of wind into the sails of the Senate, who's going to have another vote sometime in the next week or two on their version of this measure, which actually would have teeth long term if it can make it back to the House. The rules on this are all convoluted, but the message here is pretty clear that the president does not have a lot of political support for continuing this war, something that I think this White House is increasingly aware of.
Meanwhile, probably not at all related, or maybe related, Trump announced that he's going to be nominating Todd Blanche to serve as the Attorney General, as, you know, a lot of questions about lawfare continue. What could the DOJ look like under him?
Well, look, I think it'll look very similar to the way it looks now and the way it's looked for most of this term. I mean, Blanche was already the acting attorney general since Pam Bondi left. He was the deputy attorney general before that. And he's been kind of the point person on some of the bigger issues with which much of the public has interacted with the DOJ, including on the handling of the Epstein files. Blanche, I think, has unquestioned loyalty to Donald Trump. He was his personal attorney before he came into this office. He was a federal prosecutor before that. I mean, he understands the role, but he and Bondi were working pretty much in lockstep beforehand. So I don't anticipate any kind of big changes to how the department is being run here. And I think his prospects for confirmation are pretty decent. There are some Republicans who are going to take issue with his stances on things like January 6th. They might try to use their opposition to the so-called slush fund, that $1.8 billion fund, as sort of a proxy and use their votes for him as a tool to see if they can get that sort of shut down legislatively or more strongly. But most Republican senators tend to give presidents the benefit of the doubt when it comes to their cabinet members, unless they're just egregiously unqualified. And that's not really an argument you can make about Todd Blanche.
Interesting. And we also know that Trump's former advisor turned critic, turned enemy, John Bolton, is going to be pleading guilty to retaining national security information. What's he facing there?
Yeah, it's interesting. At the end of the day here, this per se, it's about notes that that Bolton himself took, according to two sources, and then showed to his wife and to his daughter on an electronic form. I don't know if it was in his notes app or what, but that alone here was enough that he felt it necessary to plead rather than try to take this to trial. He'll be sentenced, well, let me back up. He'll be arraigned in the end of June and then sentenced sometime after that, probably before the end of the summer. He has to pay a $2 million and change restitution, an enormous fine for sure. In terms of any other sentence beyond that, the range is pretty significant here. It could go from probation all the way up to 5 years in jail. This is now not somebody with any criminal record, not any other charges against him. My general belief, having covered a number of similar cases, that his sentence could probably be on the lighter end here, but that'll ultimately be up to a federal judge in Maryland, Gotti.
NBC's Garrett Hake at the White House. Garrett, thank you. And a big programming note, President Trump is going to be sitting down with Meet the Press moderator Kristen Welker. That is coming up this Sunday, and we're going to be showing clips from that interview leading up to that full interview again on Sunday's Meet the Press. And overseas, Israel and Hezbollah continue to trade attacks while peace talks between the United States and Iran are still up in the air. NBC's international correspondent Matt Bradley explains more from Qatar. Matt?
Well, Gotti, yesterday there were high hopes that there would be something like peace in Lebanon after the fourth meeting between ambassadors from Lebanon and Israel in Washington. But now those hopes have been all but dashed. We've seen continuing hostilities between Israel and Hezbollah, which is backed by Iran and which was not party to those negotiations for a ceasefire. At least 4 people, according to authorities in Lebanon, have been killed just so far since that ceasefire was announced. And so it looks as though they're still fighting. And we heard from Hezbollah, from Naim Qassem, the head of that group, saying that that group was rejecting the ceasefire deal. Important to note, as I just said, Hezbollah wasn't a part of those negotiations in Washington. They have not played much of a direct role at all in any of the negotiations between Lebanon and Israel. In the past, that was a problem, but not an insurmountable one. Lebanon basically was acting or negotiating kind of on behalf of Hezbollah, even as Lebanon has increasingly said that Hezbollah, which is, again, an Iran-backed militia in the southern part of the country, and with its headquarters in the southern part of the capital of Lebanon, of Beirut, they've increasingly been showing and saying that Hezbollah isn't as welcome as they had been in the past. So this really will complicate things. Hezbollah, in their announcement, said that this was essentially a betrayal, not in so many words, of Hezbollah and of the population of southern Lebanon. They said that they would continue to fight. The IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps in Iran, which is the one that backs Hezbollah, they essentially said that there would be no peace until Israel withdraws from southern Lebanon. Now, the terms of this deal, as published on the State Department website, really do put the onus on Hezbollah to withdraw from areas in southern Lebanon and eventually to stop, or immediately to stop their hostilities against the Israelis. There was no such language for the Israelis in this circumstance, and Hezbollah has said that they are fighting an Israeli invasion. And Israeli leaders have said that they are going to continue to fight Hezbollah, it sounds like, with or without a ceasefire. So this is a crisis for Lebanon and a major headache for the Trump administration, which has loudly said that they want to see Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israelis stop fighting in southern Lebanon, and that the Iranians will only be negotiating once they see that. So negotiations to end the fighting against Iran, those are also now in peril. Gotti?
Matt Bradley, thank you. Now let's get back to the cliffhanger playing out here in California as we wait for the results in 2 big primary elections, a race to replace Governor Gavin Newsom and the LA mayor showdown. Now, millions of votes still have not been counted. Officials say it could take days, even weeks to do it. And here's why. In California, there's more than 23 million registered voters. Every single registered voter is mailed one of these ballots about a month before Election Day. Voters then have 3 ways to turn them in. First, they could bring them to any vote center in their county, which has about 4 or 10 days of a window before the election. They could also drop it in one of the thousands of official drop boxes, which open 28 days before the election. And then third, the final option, they can mail it back. And this is where things get very tricky, if you will. California apparently accepts ballots that are postmarked by Election Day for up to 7 days after the election. And if there's a problem with one of those votes, several more days for curing. So as long as that made it into that mailbox before the close of Election Day, they're going to be counted, which, as you can imagine, is going to take a very long time. NBC's Liz Kreutz joins us on the set. You're already here. You're already getting ready to talk about the favorite part of, like, California election policy, which is just mind-boggling for some people, right?
Totally.
But did I get all that right? I mean, is that like, and we didn't even get into the curing, which could take a few days if there's like a problem, right?
Well, even Center yesterday where they were showing us how this works. Everybody who does a mail-in ballot has to sign a signature and it has to go through this really robust, lengthy process to be verified. If the signature doesn't match your original signature, they have to go through another process, send it back. So it's all what adds to it taking so long to count all these ballots.
There is some wishful thinking out there that says that, oh, maybe there's going to be some drops tonight that may push certain people over the edge. And again, it's crazy because, you know, so often people are used to California being called early, but it's because of math. It's not because the state actually calls those races. What's it looking like in the governor's race? Right?
Yeah, so it's like in a presidential race, it's just that it's overwhelmingly for one candidate, so it's an easy call. In these tight races where every vote really counts, it's much more challenging. So in the governor's race right now, it's not like we get one big drop for the governor's race like in a county, because every single county across the state drops ballots at different times. What we're seeing right now is that it's holding with the Republican Steve Hilton in the first place lead, followed by Javier Becerra, the Democrat Tom Steyer in that third place. The big question is going to be, as more of these vote by mail ballots come in, which do tend overwhelmingly to lead Democratic because more Democrats seem to vote by mail here, will Tom Steyer be able to edge himself into that second spot? It remains to be seen on that front. A lot of people are thinking it's going to be a Hilton-Becerra matchup at this point.
I've had so many conversations with people outside of California on the governor's race. And, you know, yesterday and the day before, like, we were hearing people being like, well, there may not be any Republicans on the ballot. And there, I think you spoke to somebody at one of the polling sites that was talking about trying to get no Republicans on there.
Yeah, there's a lot of strategy for people about, like, how to vote to get them in.
Some people in other states are like, wait, what? Like, no, it's a Democrat on the ballot and a Republican on the ballot. Can you break down how California sometimes works?
Yeah, it's an open primary in the governor's race. So whoever gets the two top spots, regardless of party, will move on. And part of the reason that you know, potentially a Republican is moving forward, on one hand, there might be a shift to the right by some voters who aren't happy with sort of this one-party rule that's been in California for so many years. At the same time, though, it is a very blue state, and really a lot of these Democratic votes are just getting split. There's dozens of candidates in this race.
And so many Democrat candidates.
So many Democratic candidates splitting the vote. If some of them had dropped out, it's likely we would see two Democrats move forward.
Meanwhile, there's the nonpartisan LA mayor's race, which again is a whole other big question mark tonight. Like, what's the latest there?
Yeah, so this one, we did just get a drop within the hour, and right now, still Karen Bass, the current mayor, is you know, we'd already projected that she's going to go to the runoff, so it's still a question. We have not called this yet, whether Spencer Pratt, the reality TV star, is going to be going up against her, or whether it's going to be this progressive city councilwoman, Nithya Raman. This is where these vote by mail ballots that are coming in are going to be critical, because remember, in the last mayoral race, it took 8 days for Karen Bass to be called for mayor. We could see something similar here, and as we're getting night by night these ballot drops, Nithya Raman is gaining ground on Spencer Pratt. And I talked to a GOP strategist just yesterday, I talked about this on your show, who said that he does significantly think it is in play that Raman could overtake Pratt. It's going to be very, very tight, but could still do it.
That makes sense, because we've heard from people that are voting for Spencer Pratt, or have voted for Spencer Pratt, that they were worried about, like, the election integrity. So a lot of them wanted to take their votes and ballots in on the day of. And we're seeing differences in these drops. I gotta say, though, like, everything that's going on right now, it is a very hot, it's a hotly contested race. And now you got the president weighing in. What does all of this do? What does this waiting do for trust in the election?
I think it depends on who you ask. Some people say it takes, California is doing it right. They slowly count the ballots. It takes 30 days for each election to be verified. This is a good way to do things. Other people say this is an embarrassment. Whether California could decide to either put more resources into this, to have more people counting ballots so we can get our election results faster, or potentially even put a deadline prior that if you want to mail in your ballot, it has to arrive by Election Day. It can't arrive 7 days after Election Day, which is what's the case right now.
Yeah, all policy decisions that California is going to have to decide in the future. Liz Kreutz, really appreciate all your reporting this week. Thank you so very much. And out in Texas, opening arguments started today in this high-profile case of a high school fight that turned deadly. A student named Carmelo Anthony is on trial for stabbing and killing a student named Austin Metcalf during a track meet last year, and that trial is already raising concerns over racial representation on the jury. NBC News correspondent Ryan Chandler has the latest.
Tonight, tensions boiling over outside the courthouse as a teen's murder trial begins in North Texas. The racially charged trial drawing crowds outside. 19-year-old Carmelo Anthony pleading not guilty to murder after fatally stabbing 17-year-old Austin Metcalf in the chest at a high school track meet last year. Prosecutors calling Anthony's actions unjustified, provoked murder, alleging he goaded Metcalf into pushing him, then killed him. The defense argues Anthony acted in self-defense when Metcalf made physical contact first. In the courtroom today, jurors shown surveillance video of the stabbing. Metcalf's mother wiping her eyes as jurors watched. Reporter Maria Guerrero from our NBC Dallas station in the courtroom.
You can see someone pushing someone. Then you see the figure that is identified as Carmelo Anthony moving up into the bleachers, farther up, before running down, and you can see him running away, then walking away before he is apprehended.
The prosecution says the case has nothing to do with race. But the trial now sparking backlash. The pool of 12 jurors and 6 alternates is made up of 5 women of color and 13 white men and women. There are no black jurors. Some say it raises concerns for fairness.
We are tired, and we're saying enough is enough. Not one black.
The trial expected to run 2 weeks. And Gotti, one of the most striking moments of the day, we heard from Austin Metcalf's track coach, Robert Starr. His testimony recounted the moment he found Metcalf dying, surrounded by his teammates in his team tent. Metcalf's family listening into that in the courtroom, clearly very emotional. And he's just one of the many, many witnesses that the jury will have to hear from to put together a fuller picture of what exactly happened that day. Gotti.
And now to Northern California, where a shooting broke out at a high school after a graduation ceremony. People were taking pictures in the parking lot when that shooting happened. One person is dead. We know at least 3 other people were hurt. And so far, no one's been arrested. Morgan Chesky joins us now. Morgan's been following this. So, Morgan, no idea where the suspect is?
I think that's one of the most frustrating parts about this investigation, Gotti, is here we are more than 24 hours later, and we don't even have a description of the suspect from authorities. They do believe that the public is not at any imminent risk. However, we're told that they interviewed some of the hundreds of witnesses who took this in immediately following this graduation ceremony. So hopefully they can composite some sort of description from that and figure out who rolled up on this crowd celebrating and began firing. I should also note that authorities don't even know yet if the gunman knew any of the victims in this case.
And the victims, what do we know about them?
Yeah, this is heartbreaking here, Gotti. You have an 18-year-old who was fatally shot at the scene. And in addition to that, authorities say that there was an 11-year-old, a 20-year-old, and a 25-year-old who was wounded there. There had been some social media rumors floating around today that the 11-year-old had passed away. Authorities had to come out and say, no, that is not the case. Those 3 victims are being treated at nearby hospitals and are expected, rather, to recover.
And I imagine at a scene that big with so many people there, it's going to be some time before investigators can talk to everybody, right?
Of course. And this was a celebratory scene, Gotti, that ended in just a few seconds when that gunman opened fire. You can hear in folks' own words here. I want you to take a listen to some of what they had to say.
It's traumatic what happened, actually. It keeps on happening. People keep on getting shot at this school, and it's not getting fixed. Nothing's happening. It's sad. It's really sad.
So you have that student there acknowledging some sort of violence in the past, only making it tougher for these people to kind of wrap their heads around this tragedy that, as of right now, again, does not have any description of the person responsible.
Yeah, we're praying that those victims make it through. Morgan, thank you. Thanks. And don't go anywhere. Coming up next, the angry protests in Albania, how they're connected to President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Plus, the NBA Finals selfie stunt that earned 2 people lifetime bans from all NBA stadiums for life. And also, check out this QR code if you want. You can just scan through with your phone. You can chat with us live during the breaks. That'll take you behind the scenes, streaming on YouTube, on TikTok, on Twitch. Swing by, and you can let us know your thoughts all hour long. Oh, the only way to fix a garbage problem? Trash. Hi, your mic, you're muted. Am I muted now? There, how about now? Check, check, check. Let's see. This never happens anywhere else. What are you guys talking about? Aqualife? The only way to fix the garbage problem is to burn the trash? What are you guys talking about? Let's see. Trying to go back. I don't see it. Anyway, Mr. Nolan, you and the Old Testament, huh? Let's see. Okay, perfect. Good to know, 4008. All right, so coming up, we've got a lot that we're going to be talking about in the future of everything. I'm very excited about today. We've got Baiju Bhatt. He is the founder. He was one of the founders of Robinhood, and he also has another company, and it is the Cowboy Space Corporation. So he wants to put data centers up into space, but the way they're doing that is redesigning rockets, basically from the ground up. It's pretty wild. All right, we're gonna go stand over here. And then I don't know if you guys saw Anthropic. They dropped another post today that made you just be like, what? They said AI is getting better at building itself a lot faster than they expected. Let that sink in for a second. So we are going to put some focus on that because that might be the most important story of the day. Let's see. Ooh, that would be a great idea. Jay Place.
10?
Here we go. We should. We'll revisit that pretty soon.
5, 4, 3.
Hey, welcome back. Here are some other headlines we are watching tonight. Several workers were hurt when the front of Lufthansa jet collapsed while parked at the gate in Germany's Frankfurt airport. No passengers were on the board at the time, fortunately, and that flight was eventually canceled. And get this, the Illinois State Treasurer traveled to the Vatican yesterday to personally give the Pope a check for $8.65. So what was that money for? Well, apparently it was the balance left in the Pope's papal account, or PayPal account. Oh my gosh, could you imagine $8? He left the United States with that still in the account, and I gotta get it back to him. NBA says it is banning one man for life after running onto the court to take a selfie with San Antonio star Victor Wembanyama. That happened about halfway through the fourth quarter of Game 1 of the NBA Finals against the New York Knicks last night. And it sounds like Game 3 of the NBA Finals between the Knicks and the Spurs might have a surprise guest. Take a listen.
Last night, huge night for the city of New York. The Knicks won Game 1 of the NBA Finals. There's been a lot of speculation. Have you decided whether or not you want to attend the game at Madison Square Garden?
Well, I've been a big fan for a long time, and I'm also a Jim Dolan fan. He's a nice guy, okay? He's been a long time wanting to win, and he's a competitive guy, and he's got a team that's amazing. The answer is yes. He's invited me. I'm going.
And Game 3 is set for 8:30 Monday night in New York. And a man in Arizona found a very unwanted house guest. He found a bobcat squatting in his attic. Officials are now encouraging the bobcat to try to get him to leave on its own by setting out snacks as bait, saying that trapping him will be their last resort. Meanwhile, a tense situation unfolding on a Chicago highway. Officials there investigating some sort of incident which involved the bomb squad. The whole thing shut down traffic for miles and stranded some drivers. NBC's Shaquille Brewster has more.
Tonight, this dramatic scene, the bomb squad investigating a blown-out SUV on the suburban Chicago expressway. Watch as these 3 officers carrying a shield and long gun cautiously approach that vehicle, the front windshield gone.
We're sending a guy up with a rifle with the bomb squad.
State police requesting help from many agencies, including federal ATF officers who quickly arrived on the scene. Law enforcement sources tell NBC Chicago the vehicle was being tracked by federal drug agents and that there's no evidence this was a targeted attack. Investigators can be seen sifting through the vehicle and lining the road looking for any evidence as law enforcement prepares these robotics. Illinois State Police say the incident began just after 10 a.m. on Illinois' I-290.
We're going to need some cars to divert. They're shutting down both ways.
Both directions of the 3-lane highway shut down, snarling traffic for miles.
Oh, it's terrible. Very frustrating. Very frustrating.
Drivers even standing outside of their cars on the major highway, with state police telling motorists to avoid the area.
Jack Brewster, thank you. And coming up in the future of everything, we're going to introduce you to a company looking to lead space data center revolution. Why Cowboy Space says they've got the solution to Earth's AI computing needs. We're going to talk to the CEO. Coming up next. You're watching Stay Tuned Now.
All right, 2 minutes, sir.
All right, space coming up next. How excited are you? Very, very excited. How many seconds do I have on this? Very exciting.
90, about 98 seconds.
Wait, what? 90 seconds? I only have 90 seconds?
90 back.
Oh, 90 back, okay. All right, worldwide start, new pandemic, this situation abnormal. MS, are you talking about, what are you talking about? Ebola? I hope not. But we are definitely keeping an eye on it. AI is getting so expensive that their companies are using it, blowing through their budgets. Carl Clark, yeah. And also, like, everybody's getting pretty addicted to the workflow. So if all of a sudden, you know, prices get jacked up by a consortium.
1 minute, got it.
And it's baked into your workflow, I mean, that is going to be quite the issue, unless you've got your own LLM in the works. All right. How do you get clips from the NBC's archive? That's a really good question. Are you talking about the deep archives, like the tape, the film archives? Lisa's really good about that. Next break, maybe she can talk to us about it. Somebody asked, how do we get things out of the NBC archives? Yeah, she does love to do that. 20 seconds. All right, here we go.
Starting on the road, starting right here.
Okay. 10 seconds. Anthropic first, right?
10. 5, 4, 3.
And tonight, in the future of everything, if you have to remember one story from today, try to make it this one, because the ramifications could be massive. Anthropic, a little bit earlier, basically saying it looks like their AI is getting better at making future versions of itself, and it's happening a lot faster than they thought. In this new blog post called When AI Builds Itself, Anthropic says that based on how Claude's been doing, quote, in the near future, AI systems could become capable enough to autonomously design, build, and train more capable successors on their own. And that if that happens, each new version of Claude could be built by the version before it without any human involvement. Let's bring in senior tech reporter at Axios, Ashley Gold. Ashley, this is one of those Anthropic posts that comes in the middle of the day that, I don't know about you, but you have to stop, you have to quiet everything down, and then you have to read it again and again and again, because the implications here, they could be seismic, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The way that Anthropic described this to me was sort of just the next frontier of how these models are improving. First, chat got better, then agents got better. People were able to build sort of custom agents to run things for them on their computer without any input from them. And now we're at the point where the technology is on the precipice of improving itself. So that means that Claude itself could write the next version of Claude that's even better. And the worry here is that this is going to happen before society and the labor market and policymakers have had a chance to talk about what that means, and if there should be a policy response to that sort of thing. So, why Anthropic always does this and puts these ideas to the public is they want to socialize them and get people used to these ideas before they, maybe feel like it's too late and that the technology is out of control. So yeah, just another sort of bombshell of a blog post from Anthropic that leaves us all with something to think about.
And to their credit, they do kind of drop these bombshells. Like, they are very carefully worded, probably run through Claude a bunch of time bombshells. But the last part of this post, it is very eye-opening when you read between the lines. I'm going to read it here. So, we believe that it would be good for the world to have the option to slow or temporarily pause frontier AI development to enable societal structures and alignment research to keep up with the advance of the technology. That is, okay, translation, that's the leading AI company right now seeming to say, maybe we should all just slow things down, slow our roll a little bit, and society, can you guys make up some rules here? Like, that's a huge deal.
It is a huge deal, and I was especially interested to read that line because one thing I always ask people at these AI companies is, if this technology is moving so fast and you think that it's advancing too quickly, why don't you just put your pencils down? Why don't you just stop working for a while? Maybe just see how the latest version is doing and not be so focused on improvement. And usually the answer is because if we don't keep testing out the most advanced models, bad actors will. So we need to be the good guys in the room, seeing what these capabilities are and telling everyone about it so that we can be, the people that decide how it goes. So for them to admit that maybe it's time to slow down a little and that there should be structures that allow these companies to do so, I think is pretty telling and really is a testament to just how quickly the advancements to these models are coming.
Yeah, especially when that question about the bad actors still looms here. Ashley Gold, reporting on this has been amazing. Thank you so very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Sure. And meanwhile, Wall Street right now is going crazy over SpaceX going public next week. And today, so much of the talk is share prices. Trading is go for launch on Friday, June 12th. It is what's set to become the biggest IPO in history. And shares are going to go for about $135 a piece, according to filings valuing SpaceX at a cool $1.8 trillion with a T. That is huge because the IPO game has been kind of slow for years after a surge back in 2021, but now it could go beyond the stratosphere. Let's bring in NBC's Ali Canal for more on this. Ali, let's start with this $135 a share number. Like, Taylor Swift has her Easter eggs. Sometimes Elon Musk does too with like the 420 stuff, but 135, like, where did that number come from here?
Yeah, Gotti, it's actually really interesting how they chose to do this because typically when a company goes public, they set a target range. They test the waters. They want to see what demand could be like. SpaceX came out with that very firm number, $135 a share. Now, it's not random. It was very much calculated to get them to that $1.77 trillion valuation. Now, whether or not SpaceX is actually worth that amount honestly depends on who you ask. It's quite literally the trillion-dollar question. Obviously, SpaceX thinks it's valued or worth that amount. Private markets recently valued SpaceX at $1.5 trillion. But then some on Wall Street say, wait a minute, there's no way this company can be worth that much. For example, you have analysts at Morningstar coming out and saying that they think SpaceX should be valued at $780 billion. That's about half the amount that the private markets valued SpaceX at. And it's because the math ain't really mathin' when you look at the financials. Revenue, about $19 billion. The company is not yet profitable. So it's hard to justify that roughly $2 trillion valuation. But SpaceX is saying, if you want to come on with us, you're in it for the long haul, you're in it for the potential. And they say the AI opportunity is worth around $27 trillion. So that's really the case that they're making for investors.
Yeah, quite the Elon Musk premium, and the total accessible market number that they keep throwing out is pretty wild too. I will say though, SpaceX, they've got tens of thousands of workers, right? And a lot of them have opted heavily into stock options. What's about to happen to places like Brownsville, Texas, or Hawthorne, California when this goes public?
You got it. And we've seen this movie before, right? When Google went public, Microsoft went public, usually there's a ripple effect with these local economies. So there can be more spending at bars and restaurants, maybe even more startups that are founded by some of these employees who choose to eventually part ways with the company and use their stock options to start their own businesses. And overall, just more money flowing into the system. But of course, there can be downsides here too. We saw during the tech boom, especially in San Francisco, that an influx of wealth can push those housing prices a lot higher. And they can also make communities more expensive for people who don't own those stock options. So if this IPO is successful, it's very likely that we could see this extend beyond just Wall Street and into those local communities like you mentioned.
And speaking of beyond just Wall Street, I mean, do you think that this is beyond SpaceX? Like, are we about to see the beginning of a major IPO comeback here?
I would say this is the start of a big IPO boom or a continuation of the IPO boom, or the AI boom, I should say. I don't necessarily think we're at the IPO boom just yet. And I'll explain why in just a bit. But if we take a look at the valuations of these expected IPOs, I just was talking about SpaceX, $1.8 trillion, that's expected. Anthropic, the parent company behind the cloud chatbot, that was recently valued at $965 billion in the private markets. OpenAI, maker of ChatGPT, $852 billion. So that's an enormous amount of capital that's about to be here at public markets. But now you're seeing this chart. This is interesting. This is IPO proceeds by year. And as you can see, we haven't had a ton of IPO activity since 2021. And that's because in 2022, if you remember, interest rates surged and that essentially froze the IPO market. And we've been recovering slowly ever since. But watch what happens when we add in just the expected SpaceX IPO. Look at that. 2026 proceeds jump from about $34 billion to $111 billion. And that doesn't even include OpenAI or Anthropic. So 2026 is likely going to be a record year in the IPO market. However, I don't think this is a broad-based recovery because this is just a few companies here, and they're all concentrated in AI. So it's going to be really interesting to see how these stocks actually do once they make their official debuts.
Yeah, and then what happens downstream with the ripple effects. Ali Canal, always appreciate your reporting. Thank you so much. And while all eyes are going to be on SpaceX and their IPO, there are some space cowboys that would like a word. Seriously, they are space cowboys. There's this new company out there looking to make yet another disruption in this space race. And it's not just with new rockets. They want new rockets that can unfold into floating AI data centers. That is the mission of Cowboy Space. And ironically or not, their founder, he just happens to know a thing or two about IPOs as well. He was the co-founder of Robinhood, the app that has totally changed retail investing forever. Joining me now is Baiju Bhatt. He is the man of so many hats, like a Robinhood hat, a cowboy hat, maybe a space helmet very, very soon. Thank you so very much for joining us. So much to talk about today. I do want to get your take on what next week is going to mean for space. But first, I got to ask about the idea that you guys have, this new rocket that unfolds kind of like a, I don't know, like a umbrella. How is this going to work?
Yeah, after that intro, my friend, I wish I'd worn a cowboy hat. I feel kind of bad I missed out on that opportunity. Yeah, thanks so much for having me on. So I want to tell you about Cowboy Space Corporation on a mission to power humanity from the high frontier. And our approach to data centers in space is a novel one, where rather than having the upper stage of the rocket carry a stack of satellites or a payload to space. Our concept is actually to use the entire upper stage of the rocket as the data center. And the reason we're taking this approach is because it allows us to effectively utilize that payload mass and the payload volume for power generation and for the chipsets. And we can actually use the mass and volume of the upper stage and the radiators folding out from the fairing of the rocket as the cooling mechanism. And it's kind of a blank sheet of paper approach to saying, hey, if you wanted to build data centers in space, how would you do this if you had the ability to start from scratch? And this is kind of the approach where you really, really optimize it for this one very specific use case.
It's one of those things where when you see it, you're like, oh, well, yeah, that actually makes a lot of engineering sense. But where did it come from? Like, was it somebody had an umbrella and had was looking at a rocket and was like, wait a minute, this could work? Like, what was the impetus behind putting this all in one piece?
Yeah, I want to make some kind of joke here about Doc Emmett Brown and sort of having the idea for the flux capacitor. No, the idea came from a really, really deep study of how do you make this thing competitive on a cost economic basis versus the terrestrial alternatives. And I think that this is the fundamental question that since I started the company, we've been asking about in general energy from space. So I started this company a little over 2 years ago with the goal of building energy infrastructure in space. Originally, the company was called Aetherflux. And in that time, we've been really examining the unit cost analysis and saying, hey, where does this really make sense? And after a lot of work on the spreadsheets and kind of thinking through the numbers, this was an idea that actually popped up from our team of what if instead of thinking about the data center, the payload, the satellite as this distinct component from the overall rocket system, if you think about the entire thing as an integrated technology and you have the ability to develop it from the ground up, what would you do? And this was one of those ideas that jumped out of the page, so to speak, as a unique approach that we thought was unique, but not sort of, going into the realm of having to do like a scientific breakthrough. This, from our perspective, is an engineering and sort of economics approach to solving the problem, albeit with a very cool unfolding rocket in space.
Yeah, I mean, the animations that we're looking at here are pretty impressive. It is so interesting to see all this because it goes from, what's the innovation? The innovation is reusable rockets. Well, what if we rethink what reusable even means, and we're seeing what that could possibly mean? And yet, I gotta ask, how soon do you think that you're actually gonna get those up into space?
Yeah, first of all, on the topic of usability and reusability, we actually say that our upper stage, rather than being reusable or disposable, is actually a usable upper stage. So kind of a different take on that idea. But on the timeline, our team is hard at work on this. We've set a very, very aggressive goal of launching our very first actual rocket into space in the very end of 2028. So a lot of work that has to go into actually making that happen, but that's the goal that we've set internally for our team. And we have a few smaller satellite launches that are on the horizon. So we've got one coming up later on this year where we're going to demonstrate space to Earth power beaming, which is a slightly related concept, but a cool technology. And next year, we're actually going to have our first GPUs in orbit. That'll be a stepping stone towards the animation of the upper stage rocket. Upper stage being
we are waiting for the invitation to be there on the launch pad. That would be incredible to see. I do have to ask, though, what is it? I mean, I know some other fintech people that made a whole lot of money that all of a sudden took all of their passion and started looking up. How do you see SpaceX's IPO next week?
Yeah, so wonder who that could be. Yeah, so I think it's a very interesting moment in general for the space industry. I think the data centers in space concept by itself is a pretty transformative one. And in particular, the reason I think it's so transformative is that this represents one of the largest, I think I would say the largest commercial opportunity in the space industry, right? And I think as we look back over the history of the space industry, you know, the 1960s were obviously this sort of like fantastical time of building space technology that captured the imaginations of a generation of Americans and a generation of people around the world. We're living in a really unique and interesting time because with this new commercial use case for space of data centers, and when you just look at the TAM of how big the AI market can be, even if a small fraction of it ends up being native to the space environment, it has the ability to dramatically change the commercial applications for space. And the reason I think this is so important is because it has the ability to make space way more useful for people on Earth. And obviously the importance of capitalism and the importance of capitalism driving, you know, change in society. That's a little bit of what the last company I started did. So it's kind of a related thought in that way.
And we can't wait to see what happens with this one as well. Baiju, really appreciate your time today. I know time is of the essence when you're on rocket clocks. Thank you so very much. And coming up, the miracle rescue of a Sherpa on Mount Everest. He survived for a week in the extreme cold conditions, how he finally made it to safety. Stay with us. All right. Chat, what did you think? Lisa's just doing some, speaking of rocket science.
No,
Lisa's
yes, I'm
some
doing my rocket science.
on-
You're like, look, I told you we're fine on time. You're
she's
fine on time because I
recalculating.
make it work that you're fine on. I do the math so you're fine on time.
Yeah, she is doing recalculating. Okay, I'll let you do your math. But,
1 minute.
dude, it's fascinating stuff. I mean, it is a pretty novel approach. We got to go out there. I want to go see it in person. One thing to see animations, other thing to see the hardware.
Well, to see, and see if they could actually pull it off. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Marilyn, I love us producers in the news. You do keep the ball rolling. Marilyn is a producer. Shout out to all the producers. Look, like the mouth breathing, talking guys that just sit here, we are like less than 0.5% of what happens in the news. So shout out to the producers and the photographers and the editors and the technical directors and the floor directors and everybody and the Ronin operators and even the robot cams. All right, here we go. 10 seconds. 10 seconds. Man, I want to read what you guys were saying during that segment because I'm obsessed.
5, 4, 3.
Hey, welcome back. We are back with the protests in Albania erupting over plans for a luxury resort backed by President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Now, the Albanian government says the resort could bring more jobs, but critics say there are environmental concerns over where that resort is being built. NBC's Raf Sanchez has the details.
Across Albania, days of mass protests, with police turning water cannon on demonstrators filling the streets of the capital. Their anger sparked by plans for a vast luxury resort being developed by Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump.
I'm working on an incredible project with my husband in the Mediterranean. It's massive in scale.
President Trump's son-in-law has said the plan could include 10,000 villa and hotel rooms, releasing these images of his vision. But the resort, spread across this island and parts of the neighboring coastline, means construction in one of Albania's most environmentally sensitive areas. The Vjosa Narta Delta is famous for its wildlife, a stopping point for migratory birds, and the country's only breeding ground for flamingos, which have now become a symbol for the demonstrators, who fear the Kushner plan will
horrendous that we have seen. Everything seems terrible.
Joni Vorpsi is an environmentalist and part of the effort to stop the resort.
So you're worried that fragile ecosystem will be disrupted?
Yeah, it will be completely destroyed. Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump are in a very comfortable place, I would say, very far from the catastrophe that they are motivating and creating.
Kushner's investment firm, Affinity Partners, did not respond to a request for comment. But in a podcast interview this week, Ivanka Trump promoting the project.
It's an unbelievable, beautiful 1,400-hectare private island in the middle of the Mediterranean.
That interview drawing mockery from The Daily Show.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you guys not have hectare money?
Kushner had planned another major development in Serbia, but pulled out of the project last year in the face of widespread opposition there. Protesters in nearby Albania hoping their efforts will lead to the same result. Raf Sanchez, NBC News.
Raf, thank you for that reporting. Meanwhile, up on Mount Everest, after a Sherpa guide went missing last week, his family was starting to give up hope. But by some miracle, the man was found crawling back to base camp this morning. NBC News international correspondent Janice Mackey-Freyer has that story.
Tonight, a miracle on Mount Everest. A Sherpa guide found crawling back to base camp 6 days after he went missing. Dawa Sherpa seen here, moments after he was found. I fell from a ladder into a crevasse, he says. For 2 days and nights, I survived on ice. The 52-year-old seasoned guide was last seen around 23,600 feet, the so-called death zone, where conditions are harsh and oxygen too thin to sustain human survival. Search and rescue teams scoured the mountain for days before he appeared around the Khumbu icefall, frostbitten but alive, and swiftly airlifted from the mountain. At the hospital, his wife and daughter were overwhelmed. We asked for photos, and only then were we sure, she said. They had already started his funeral ritual, convinced he was gone. This climbing season, a busy one on the world's highest peak, after a massive chunk of ice blocked the route to the top. A record 274 people summiting Mount Everest in a single day last month, causing concerns about garbage and over-tourism. But this is also one for the history books, a remarkable story of survival. Janice Mackey-Freyer, NBC News, Beijing.
Wow. And still to come, I catch up with the cast of Friday Night Lights, why the beloved NBC drama still resonates after 20 years of its premiere. But first, you got to see this. If you thought flipping off a diving board was scary, wait till you see this video. Okay, here we go, here we go, here we go. Still climbing. The Swiss high diver took a leap of faith, then came face to face with a huge catfish. Next time you're headed in the water, you might want to take a peek of what's below the surface, even if it's a trip way down the stairs. Be right back. Just like on, yeah. Anyway, okay. Can you guys hear me okay? All right. So I think the rest of it is on tape, right, Lise? Thanks. Also, let's see. Dude, we have some, hey, Michi. Dude, Michi, you're invited back whenever with the glazing. Anybody that hangs out in the industry is family here. So great to see you. Thank you guys so very much for watching. I think I'll route it all the way through for the rest of the show. So if you guys watch Friday Night Lights, you can watch our interview with the cast of Friday Night Lights. Smash was there. Jason Street was there. Coach Taylor, Clear Eyes, Full Hearts, Can't Lose, Texas Forever. Yeah, pretty great. 45 seconds. Let's see. I'll put this thing up just in case, so I don't want to miss it. How do I get clips from NBC's archives? Lisa's not paying attention. She's talking to the cool kid.
Sorry.
Lisa, how do you get archives?
How do I get archives? We have a whole archive system where everything going back to, I think it goes back to the 60s. I want to say the mid 60s is digitized and saved, all the films and stuff like that. And we also have librarians and media managers that help us find archival footage if we're looking for it. So it's a whole separate system, a whole separate process that we go through rather than getting stuff from like this week. And our footage is archived pretty quickly as well.
We got a
we
chance
don't
to
keep
sit down with the
anything
whole
longer than a
cast of
week
Dylan High,
readily
Coach
available.
Taylor,
We
Jason
do
Street,
what's called
Tyler,
pre-push it, so we
Smash,
have to
all of them
basically
coming
resend
together
it
for
to
a
the main system
20-year
to go to the
reunion
control room.
to prove that Texas really is forever.
You better get your head in the game. It's been 20 years since we first saw the cast of Friday Night Lights take the field.
I think that everybody loves football.
Now, along with showrunner Jason Katims, the show's stars, including Kyle Chandler and Connie Britton, are back for a high school reunion of sorts.
What's that like?
Kind of miserable right now, sitting next to her.
It's a true family reunion.
They all sat down with us during the ATX TV Festival last week in Austin, Texas, where the show was honored for its enduring legacy that seems to live on through a simple phrase.
Clear eyes, full hearts, can't lose.
What does clear eyes, full hearts, can't lose mean to you, Coach?
It means be smart, keep your eyes open, keep your heart open, and you can't lose.
He didn't write his own lines. You see that?
I thought that was a pretty good answer.
The series really centered around the marriage of Coach Eric Taylor and his better half, school counselor Tammy.
Contrary to popular opinion, I'm very good communicating with women folk.
Sweetheart, that is ridiculous. We agreed right at the outset. We're like, no matter what, we can't let them make either one of us have an affair. And we wanted it to be about...
And we tried.
They really tried. We pushed right back on it. We wanted it to be about partnership and collaboration and making mistakes, but always going back to each other.
Amy Teagarden played their daughter.
Watching the two of them work together and like really, I don't know, they had this like united front, like a solid actual relationship, and it was really beautiful to watch.
Fans fell in love with the show's authenticity and ability to tackle topics beyond the gridiron.
That's one of the things that really separated, your show from so many others.
Yeah, we never built a set. We'd have camera operators capturing the whole scene at once. So it really, I think, afforded the actors the ability to be in the moment.
That's the brilliance of our writers, is that no subject was off limits for them to explore. They took every situation and presented it, and then allowed characters to fumble their way through difficult situations consistently.
We all were given such a sense of ownership of the show. We all felt this sense like this character is ours, and it is a privilege for us to be able to create it. But we didn't just feel that way. Everybody felt like they were part of something that they believed in.
It was one organism from the very bottom of the call list to the very top of the call list. It was one organism that worked together. It was a magical, as they say, lightning in the bottle.
It also launched the careers of young stars like Taylor Kitsch, Minka Kelly, Michael B. Jordan, and Jesse Plemons.
In my life and career, there's like a before Friday Night Lights and an after. I'd always loved acting, but it was like walking into a completely different realm. It completely changed what I thought was possible about acting, and I think it's kind of something I've been chasing ever since.
Still, amid modest ratings in the first 2 seasons, the lights were almost turned off on FNL.
I know some of the fans have played a big role in some campaigns.
Let's keep the lights on. They sent eco-friendly light bulbs and
footballs to the studio.
And footballs to the studio.
The fans are the reason that we're here. And honestly, and the fact that we still keep getting fans who are seeing it for the first time, it feels like it's never stopped.
And now, even after all these years, the big football family's bond lives on.
It's been a huge blessing. There's some jobs that you show up and do the job, and then there's some jobs you show up and it's a family. And this, to me, has been like one of the best families that I've ever had in TV.
It's just such an honor that I got to be Grandma Saracen, because it was just the role of a lifetime for me. I don't know what to say except you all. I really love you, and I think I don't feel weird about seeing you all because it's like I've just been with you.
I don't know what I'd do without you. I don't know.
I know you guys have said this a million times, but Coach, if you don't mind, can you cue us up with just the first 2?
Clear eyes, full hearts.
Can't lose! Clear eyes, full hearts, can't lose, and Grandma Saracen's still making us cry. So from football to football, most of us have seen the headlines by now. World Cup tickets are hard to come by, and if you do, you're probably paying a pretty penny for them. But luckily, one elementary school soccer team got the surprise of a lifetime to get them closer to the action, and our Chloe Malas was there to watch it go down.
Find a new gate, Victoria.
For one youth soccer team in Queens, the road to the World Cup started in a school gym.
Because of a very special mommy that did something for us. Every single one of you is going to a World Cup game! Look!
Tickets for each child to attend the World Cup match between Norway and Senegal later this month. The surprise coming after Wing Yi Sang, one of the players' moms, nominated the team for StubHub's Access New York program, which gives free live event tickets to kids.
I was very emotional, and I just was so happy for them.
The principal of PS 171Q says more than 90% of the school faces economic hardships.
They should have these experiences that others have. Like, why can't they have these experiences? They deserve it.
Many of the kids could hardly believe it.
Can you describe to me your emotions right now?
I'm like excited and happy. I've never went to the World Cup, and I've watched it every year since I was 2.
A little team from Queens
Is going to a World Cup!
now headed to one of the world's biggest games.
We're going to the World Cup!
Chloe Malas, NBC News, New York.
I've watched it every year since I was 2. You're going to be watching the World Cup for the rest of your life after this. Chloe Malas, thank you so very much for that. That's going to do it for us tonight. I'm Gotti Schwartz. We'll see you here tomorrow. But until then, stay tuned to NBC News.